I'm captivated. I'm captivated. I'm captivated.
Good afternoon and welcome to Woman Wednesdays. I am Teresa Lauterbach, your host here on Tea Time with Afternoon Social. And our guest again today is Lilian Sue. She was with us here on Monday, and she is a PR coach, a copywriter, a publicist and social strategist, and owner of Retrospect Writing. She hails from British Columbia, Canada, and today she's going to give us some perspective and advice on facing cultural differences as a woman of color entrepreneur. So good afternoon, Lillian, and I'm glad you joined us again today. I'm going to just go ahead and turn this back over to you. And we had a great conversation going about changing our mindset, but now we're going to talk about the cultural differences and how that really affects you and what kind of challenges you've had to face. So I'm going to turn this over to you and let you share some of that wisdom with us.
Sure. Yeah. Believe it or not, cultural difficulties really plays into positive and negative mindsets as an entrepreneur. As a first generation Chinese born Canadian, I was raised by immigrants, baby boomers who immigrated to Canada in the late 50s and late 60s, respectively. So I was brought up with the framework, the mindset that you get a job after school, you stay there for, 3 or 4 decades, you collect a pension, and that's it. There was really no option to do anything else. There was no focus to do anything else. And they really stressed, you don't take breaks, you don't switch jobs. It's not about your happiness on the job. It's about providing that stability for your family.
Right.
And that's what I grew up with. That's what my older brother and I were raised on. And so I had no exposure at all to being an entrepreneur until I saw my brother go through it himself. And at the time, he was the first ever entrepreneur on either side of the family. And he made the choice to do it as a chiropractor because he couldn't keep working for other chiropractors and not getting paid what he was worth. Right. So he made that decision to step out into that. And that was what inspired me. Because at the time I was a university student, I was looking for paid internship experience as part of my degree. And I said, you know what? No one's going to hire me unless they know what it is that I can do. So in those days, I started cold calling and cold emailing companies, marketing agencies, anybody who would be willing to give me a shot. On a busy day, I would probably be cold calling and cold emailing about 40 of them in order to build my portfolio. And it was that desire to build my portfolio that led to me running my own business and getting clients. My parents, I got a lot of pushback when I was still a student and living at home. They couldn't understand why I would choose the instability. They couldn't understand why I wanted to do what it is that I wanted to do, because for them, stability was paramount. They didn't even believe in taking breaks to kind of discover what it is that you wanted to do. It was just get a government job, get a, because they have that stability. And even to this day, they still have that mindset.
Right.
And for me, it was more of a, because I'd seen them be miserable working, come home, be burnt out, complain, go to bed after dinner, do it all over again the next day.
Right.
And I said to myself, I want more than that. I deserve more than that because I'm going to spend so much of my life working as it is. I want to be able to do something I love and actually enjoy learning in that industry. Allow myself to grow in it, allow myself to provide, learn how to provide value to the right people that I want to work with. And coming from a very traditional household and a culture where, there's no emphasis on that. There's no emphasis on, finding a career doing what you love, that stability means the most. You get a lot of pushback into how it affects other areas of your life. A lot of probing questions about how you can afford to support a household, how you can afford to support a family. And for me, in order to respect my career, respect my time and energy, respect my own mental health, I had to put up barriers on that and boundaries and go, okay, I'm only willing to share this much with you. Because you've proven time and time again that your mindset of what matters and what's important should be ranked higher than my desire to live a fulfilling career, have a fulfilling career. And I think a lot of, certainly a lot of entrepreneurs that I've talked to who are people of color have come across that a lot with their own families and their own parents, because you're trying to balance cultural and parental expectations with your own happiness and your own desires and what it is that you want in order to live a fulfilling life. And that certainly can be really difficult, because with my family, it's a topic that comes up a lot, even in casual conversation. We'll have a big family gathering and I'll be catching up with the cousins, and inevitably it'll be like, oh, how's work?
Right.
And all of them in my generation work the traditional 9 to 5. It's not like I never wanted that. It's not like I didn't try for that, but it also didn't work out for me either.
Right.
So it was one of those things where it's like, how much do you share with them to make them a part of your life, but at the same time put up those boundaries and go, I'm not going to speak to you about the ins and outs of this because you don't understand, and you've proven that you don't necessarily want to understand the difficulties of, how do I justify doing what it is that I do for my business when there's been times where I didn't make a cent, and yet I still stuck with it because of that love, because of that enjoyment, and because of that desire to want to do more. And certainly I'd heard enough stories about the actual job market working for somebody else not being stable.
Right.
You hear about it all the time, especially right now, where there's so many people getting laid off, getting bought out, and getting burnt out. All of those things. And for me, it's not the times that I've spent working for other people, I've certainly learned a lot. But I can tell you that I didn't have nearly as much ownership, much pride, and much enjoyment over doing what I do for myself, because it's not my framework, it's not my company, and those are not my clients. I'm here for the learning opportunity, and that's it. So I think at the end of the day, in trying to balance those cultural expectations and that mindset, is really about prioritizing what is it that you want out of your life? How do you want to have a fulfilling career? And how do you at the same time put those boundaries and those barriers up on like, okay, this is starting to get unhealthy. I'm feeling your judgment over here about me being an entrepreneur. And I'm going to put a stop to that right now because I don't need it. I don't want it. And at the end of the day, and this was key for me, unless I'm asking you for money to support my business, you don't get a say in any of this because it is my life.
Right.
And that was also about going back to what we talked about in our previous session. It was also about rearranging my mindset because what being brought up in a traditional Chinese household means that you are conditioned to put parental pride first. You're conditioned to put their expectations for you and your life first.
Right.
And I had to step out of that and go, it's my life. They're not living it. And it's much more important to me to be able to find joy in what it is that I do on a daily basis than to work a soul-sucking corporate job where I come home and I feel burnt out and I'm unhappy, and it's like, you know, I'm going to live 20, 30 years of this just for a pension at the end of the day? You know, is that when I'm actually going to be able to enjoy my life? Do I have to wait until retirement? Right? You know, so I really had to break out of that, and I credit my brother with inspiring me to look at things a different way. Just like we discussed in our previous session about breaking out of industry standards, this was about breaking out of parental and cultural standards on what you should be doing. Because also traditionally, you know, doctor, lawyer, accountant.
Right. But that's, you can, I was thinking that too, even chiropractor, you can go out and have a business as that because they can see what they do and why they need they get a client. It's still almost traditional, especially with a man in charge, having his own business in those fields, because you see that all the time. They don't really, it's not really as equated to as an entrepreneur as much as some of this other when you're working from home or building something that's different, like with publicity clients, when they don't understand exactly what you do and they can't equate that to something traditional, then you have something even a bigger barrier because not only do you have to prove yourself that as a woman you can do it, but that this is a real job, quote job. So I can see where that culture would really push back even harder. So that seems like another big piece of advice, is to find somebody doing it to help you get through this. So that was great that your brother could inspire you and help you move past some of that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's definitely, like, the other thing that's a big cultural barrier is the double standard too, in relation to, you know, men can do any number of things, and with women, I mean, certainly their intention was never for me to be a housewife dependent on my husband, but there was a list of, you know, acceptable occupations that I should take on in order to be earning that money. And certainly there was a double standard, given that my brother and I, there is a 13-year age gap between us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just him and I. So in regards to a lot of the cultural traditions, he got a lot more freedom, and I got more of the control, more of the expectations, and more of the, you know, this is the box you have to fit into because this is what cultural traditions demand of you. And this is how we've lived our lives for generations, and this is how you need to as well. And I said, no to all of that because for a lot of it, I didn't see the benefits of it. There was no net positive in it for me to, like who exactly am I satisfying here? Is it really that important to me to go through, grueling academic career, to say become a pharmacist when I was no good at math or sciences? In order to what exactly? Give my parents a talking point the next time they go hang out with their friends that, oh, our daughter's a successful pharmacist? Is that really that important to me, right? At the end of the day. And, it's also, life is so short. We all know this. Life is too short to be miserable. I really, particularly in this last year and change, really focused on how do I embrace joy in my career on a daily basis? What do I look forward to doing on a daily basis? What do I look forward to helping people with on a daily basis? And that's really what it comes down to, right? I'm not just completing a task and writing off a checklist for somebody else. I'm taking an active role every single day on building relationships, on giving out guidance and advice, on presenting myself in the most authentic, real, and true way possible. And to me, and also learning about, what's the kind of framework I want to have in my business? What are the things that I want clients to be prepared for or to have in order to get the most out of working with me? These are all things that I love thinking about and I find rewarding to kind of build into my business, as opposed to going and working with somebody else and not having that say, right? And feeling like you're not contributing or fulfilling your full potential the way that you should be. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to run my own business was, I am in the business of helping other people fulfill their fullest potentials with whatever it is that they're doing, through publicity, through the copywriting, through the social media strategy, through the PR coaching, because I believe that everybody out there can do that. Yeah. That's a rewarding career to me, not, forcing myself into this mold in order to satisfy other people's expectations. Right.
That's a very fascinating and interesting viewpoint on the cultural differences, and it's actually when some of that traditionalism is almost all through just that generation up to the 50s and 60s, and because I see a lot of that pushback too of, this is the box, this is the way it's supposed to be, and it's that fear that we were talking about previously too, and I think that's where we've been conditioned to live in fear that we're not going to have money to pay for the lights to be on, or that we're going to be out on the streets, so we have to go pursue what mom and dad told us we have to pursue. And so it shows strength and courage that you were able to step out and go against all of that and become you, become the real you. And I think that's probably what makes you a very successful coach, because you become yourself. And having a building relationships with people, it starts with being yourself. So I'm glad we picked up on all of that, and thank you so much for joining us this week on both these episodes. And all of our contact information will be in the comments with the videos. So I want to thank you again for joining us on Woman to Woman Wednesdays, and we'll probably hear some more from you later. And thanks for joining us, Lillian.
Thanks for having me.
I'm captivated. I'm captivated.